And we are going live on YouTube as well. So there is a YouTube link that is in my on my profile. So you guys are more than welcome to, but I just went live there. And it's on the pinned profile, the first tweet up top. So you can click that, scroll down, and you'll see. I know I do long posts. Forgive me for that, but I love America, and I'm writing everything I can to get word out about early vote action, Turning Point, about PA Chasers, all the great work that we're doing here to make sure that we win in November. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't win in November, kiss this country goodbye. Period. End of story. This has been the most consequential election I know of in many, many elections that I've been through and worked on different campaigns before. And so please make sure you are sharing the word with your friends and family, that you're posting about our meetups. We plan on doing one meetup a week for the next 10 weeks because there are only 70 days left. Oh my gosh, where's the time gone? And it will go just like that. No matter how much Kamala Harris, Hayden Harris, Comrade Harris is hiding, we've got to get our word out. And most importantly, the purpose of this call in this space today is to bring together what an American duo, an iconic American duo, which is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a great American, as well as the Trump campaign, and to start off by welcoming the Kennedy 2024 coalition, which through Lane Koch, who will be joining us just in she's a speaker, she's here, but through her work, we'll hear about her work, her background, and just what motivates her as a mother, but as somebody that's transitioning from the good transition. She's coming from the Kennedy campaign to help Trump win in November. We are so blessed to have Lane with Arena Campaigns on this call. I've known her for many, many years. Down in St. Louis is where we met, and I got to know her, and she just works tirelessly to elect candidates. And I talked to her. And Lane, hop in for just a second here, but did I talk to you about a week before Kennedy dropped out / endorsed Trump?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's right. And at the time, I couldn't really, say or confirm anything, but of course, can always share what my, professional opinion is on what to do. So I think I shared with you that this was my hope that was going to be the direction that we'd go. So here we are.
Wow. I did not. You. By the way, you gave no hint. No, you're a great poker player.
Yeah, right.
You really didn't. We were talking about like next steps, and I said, Lane, you've got to hear about this organization. It is just phenomenal, and I'm just, my heart just turns. And it is. What did I tell me? What I told you, so that this is for the record. What I was saying to you.
Oh, exactly. So Ross was telling me about how, what they're doing, early vote action with absentee chase, and that's really something that I know we'll talk more about it, but I feel very strongly that the Republican Party needs to focus on. It's not something that we traditionally have. And so, yeah, that's what we were talking about. As he was saying, I know your grassroots background, and you really got to get connected with these folks. And at the time, we were talking about that in my capacity as the Midwest director for the Kennedy campaign. And so I told, our campaign manager and chief of staff, hey, we really need to see what we can do to pair up and focus on making sure that we're following up with these absentee votes and absentee ballots and so forth. So I'm really glad that we had the conversation, and here we are.
Oh my gosh. And we're going to go into your background because it's so fascinating how you've kind of, you've seen the intersection between public and private, and you've had the opportunity to work on some cool campaigns and you're just a proud American and a mother who is just such a great person. So we'll get into that. But I just wanted to say, I mean, it's so fortuitous that a week ago, prior to the great American Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying, I support Trump, I said, Lane, you've got to hear it. We've got to get up to Pennsylvania. We have to. This is a make or break state for us. If we don't win Pennsylvania, we're out of this thing. And she said, I know, Ross, I know. And I said, well, what do you know? She didn't say anything after that, but I'm so blessed to have you on this call. And we'll talk about, I want to learn about one of the things that we're going to get to is learning about how you guys and your Kennedy 2024 campaign were able to just galvanize support and to get millions of signatures in each of these battleground states and other states, blue states, red states. And really, it's so significant because I think that's something that RNC, bless them for being much more on it in the last year with Laura Trump, but the RNC's really lacked that ground game and lacked that coalition. And that's why in today's call, we're launching the Trump and RFK All Star Volunteer Coalition. We're going to be sending out a list. I've been speaking to people in RNC, people in different campaign capacities. So I'll make sure that you guys get that. And know that list is going to be, you guys are going to tell me, hey, maybe I want to work with Early Vote Action, potentially another group, but I'm going to make sure that you have opportunities. Any Kennedy 2024 volunteer or just supporter for that matter, if you want to help Trump win, I will show you how in this call. And so we'll get to that. And the other, I want to take a moment for a second. And there were a few Tulsi Gabbard fans who I think she's just such a great American and a hero in many ways and wonderful person, but not just because she endorsed Trump today, because she is. I also want to welcome anybody from the Tulsi Gabbard campaign along with the Kennedy 2024 campaign. If you are coming and you support Tulsi Gabbard, which I don't understand how somebody couldn't, but if you support her and you want to be part of this coalition, arms wide open, come join the team, come join this coalition of all-star volunteers. We'll give you the opportunity to go up to Early Vote Action in Pennsylvania, hit the ground with wonderful people like Ellis and Heather and wonderful people that I've started to get to know over the last month or so. But I really wanted to take a moment to say thank you and welcome to both the Kennedy 2024 Great Americans and the Tulsi Gabbard 2024. Well, she ran before, and let me tell you, we are so blessed to have this awesome coalition of former Democrats, really. People say Trump is just the guy, he's one-sided, he's a Republican, but the truth be told, a lot of this coalition that's forming right now are independents. They're unaffiliated. There may be many of you on this call right now who are unaffiliated, right? There are many of you that might not have a party, and that's okay. Okay, I'm here to tell you we're not here for independent, we're not here for Republican or Democrat, we're here for America. Period. End of story. And the reason that you wake up every morning and think about how many voters you can register is because you love America, not because of your party. This is not a party call. Okay, we'll party later when Trump wins. This is a call to galvanize the support and to bring together a coalition of Trump, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, all-star volunteers to go up to Pennsylvania and knock on doors, because the margin of error here is it is tiny, it's minuscule. We have no room. The Democrats, as the voter count that just came out that Scott and JD posted, we're within 1,000 of net positive voters. That's not enough. We have to have a margin of error through Early Vote Action and through the other groups like Turning Point, as well as PA Chasers that will reach out to me. We've got to have such a margin that it's too big to rig, it's too big to fail. And that's what our plan to do. So again, I want to welcome everybody on this call, great Americans, whether you're from the Kennedy 2024 campaign or whether you are with the Tulsi Gabbard, who, God bless, just endorsed Trump today in Michigan. You are welcome, and we will find a home for you, because guess what? We share the same values. And let's talk about values for a second here. What are the values that Kennedy 2024, when he stood up on that podium, God bless him, and he said, what are the three things he said? Okay, let's repeat what he said, because I think it's so powerful and why you RFK supporters are going to come help Trump win. Number one, he said, free speech. Kennedy 2024 was about free speech. And guess what the Democrats did to him? The demagogues of the Democrats, who have nothing but hate. We have love, they have hate. They went to every place where he got millions of ballot signatures, people that signed to put him on the ballots, and they fought his ability to be on the ballot. And that is just shameful, shameful. And the censorship we're seeing, whether this Telegram guy that was just arrested abroad, or what's happened in the EU with these insane tech policies and regulations, free speech is the core value that brings us Americans together, period. Without free speech, we are nothing. Okay. And so, number one, he said free speech. And such a powerful thing that Kennedy 2024 and that whole campaign, the whole movement that Lane was part of, and we're going to hear from her. But that's number one. Number two, what did Kennedy 2024? What did it stand for? He said the war in Ukraine. Listen, some of you might think, and this is the beauty of the Republican Party. There's people that have sort of the more Bush-esque values, et cetera. Maybe that's not me per se. Okay, it's not. Or the neocon perspective, we want it. But no matter what, we want strength abroad. That's what we share. And so the war in Ukraine has just taken billions, 150 plus billion of dollars. And guess what's happened? Nothing. No movement, no progress. Do you know how many times we could have built the border wall with $150 billion? Do you know how many times we could have solved homelessness in America, stopped fentanyl at the border from going up to great states like Pennsylvania or over their states like Georgia? Well, 7 times over, because to solve homelessness is about a $25 billion solution, but they don't care. The swamp doesn't care. So Kennedy spoke so eloquently about how we need to stop the war in Ukraine. We need to stop these endless wars. So did Tulsi Gabbard, by the way. We share this collective peace through strength. And so that was Kennedy's second fundamental tenet that I think all of us share. We want to be strong abroad. We want to have a great reputation. We don't want to have what Kamala and Biden have done, which has been we're a total laughingstock to Iran. We're a total laughingstock to the Palestinians who are attacking the Israelis. We want to have strength, but through peace. So when Trump says something, people listen, bottom line. So that was number one was free speech, the value of free speech. Number two that Kennedy said was the war in Ukraine. And number three, oh my goodness, I'm a parent of 3 children. What did Kennedy say? And it's just so baffling how anybody could argue against any of these points, by the way. But he said, we have to end the war on our children. The war on our children. What does that mean? Well, the war on our children is multifaceted. It's through the lack of school choice. It's the books that are thrown upon our kids without our permission. I'm not saying ban books, but why not ask for our permission? The what's happening in our hospitals where forced transitions are taking place with kids that are under the age of 18. Okay, it's the war of pharmaceuticals. If you're not into vaccines, then I'm not saying my personal perspective. Okay, I'm just telling you, if you don't want a vaccine for your kid, you shouldn't have to be forced to have that. Those are the sort of things that made Kennedy so common sense. So common sense. Kennedy 2024 is common sense, is Trump, is Tulsi Gabbard. Our campaign for the White House is a campaign of common sense. So those 3 things. So all the Kennedy supporters, raise your hand on the call. I want to see you. Raise your hand, thumbs up, whatever you want to do. We're so blessed to have you. But those 3 things, free speech, war on Ukraine, war on our children, we will continue within the Trump campaign to preserve those things. And one last announcement, then we're going to switch it over to Lane and her experiences. Trump has made it clear that he plans on making Kennedy as his head of his presidential transition team. And I want to emphasize that because some of the liberal pundits on CNN, MSNBC, et cetera, they've said, well, maybe Trump's just making this up. He just wants to bring on these former Democrats and get the vote. Well, that's not true. Trump is a CEO. He knows what he knows and he knows what he doesn't know. And that's what makes a great leader. He knows he needs to know more about the war on our children. He knows he needs to know, well, I guess he knows more about the war on free speech better than anybody, but he's going to listen to Robert F. Kennedy and he's going to take his perspective and put it in his presidential transition team. So I really want to just say thank you guys. We're going to keep going here. I'm going to give you guys some messaging. We're going to hear from Mayor JD, who's a rock star. Love you, brother, and all you're doing up there. But again, welcome to the Kennedy 2024 and the Tulsi Gabbard. We're gonna bring you in. It was last minute, but we invite you as well, former Democrats, independents. This is not a call about GOP. This is not a call about being a Republican or how you need to be a better Republican. This is about fighting for America and fighting to have our country and get our country back. Period. So, with that said, we're going to start with the mayor's going to wrap sort of concept. He's going to tell us about early vote action. But Lane, I want to jump over to you for a couple minutes and speak freely. But I want to know about your background and just tell us about what excites you about Kennedy and also now Trump. I'm going to turn over the floor to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Ross. And thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. So, I've been working in politics in some respect for what feels like my whole life. I grew up with, not going to give you my whole life story, but I grew up with parents that didn't work in politics, but they were civically involved. We would talk about religion and philosophy and politics and policy at the dinner table. And we've carried that tradition with our kids. I think that's the best way to teach them history, to make sure that they've got a good point of reference when they get into these schools and they start getting taught by, sometimes teachers that go through these just kind of communist churn out camps, which is basically just most public institutions these days. And so, my dad, my parents didn't have a lot of money to donate. So they were like, we're going to volunteer. We're going to get involved. We're going to get some skin in the game with what we can do, which is our time. And I really think that that has set the groundwork for my career because, you know, there's nothing like knocking a door. Doors win wars. There's nothing like going out and going to someone's house, getting them to fill out an absentee ballot, making sure that they put it in the mail. There's nothing like making phone calls and getting involved on a campaign. And so we're going out and getting a petition, which I'll talk more about. So I started volunteering with my dad. He took me door to door, took me to campaign offices, election night watch parties. And I remember just one year, I think it was 2006, being at an election night watch party and seeing all the campaign staff running around making this event happen. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. When I grow up, I'm going to be one of those people that are fighting for our values, that are preserving our American traditions. That's what I want to do for a living. I can't imagine something better. So I just stayed involved in campaigns throughout college. Interned in 04 for the Bush campaign. Did student council and so forth. And then as soon as I've been working on campaigns at level from city council all the way up to presidential. I've worked for some of the best consulting firms in the country, which has just been just a great opportunity. I got the chance to work at Axiom Strategies, which is the largest Republican consulting firm in the nation under Jeff Rowe, who's easily one of the most formidable political minds in American politics. Axiom's elected more people to the U.S. Congress than any firm in American history, which is crazy. So I've just had a chance to learn from some really great people. And, on the personal side, I'm a mom of three. I live in a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri, and I've always worked for the Republican Party. I actually don't consider myself an independent. I love my party, and that's not everybody on Kennedy 24. One of the cool things about our campaign was that we have people that say, I want to end the duopoly, I want to party build, I want to end the two-party system. And, that was really cool. A lot of people were super, super passionate about that. And I actually became much more passionate about that, and I'll get into it, when I realized how much of a two-party system that we have, how much they don't want independence. And so I'll talk about just all of the things we went through with getting on the ballots. That was one of my big responsibilities. But But for me, I went through a lot, and I know a lot of you did. Raise your hand if you went through some trauma or had to fight for your kids' rights to breathe in school, or maybe even to be able to go to school, or maybe it was you didn't want your kids to have an experimental drug, or you didn't want to show your whether you're vaccinated or not, on principle you didn't want to have to tell your work what you were doing with your medical choices and so forth. And so I dealt with all of that. I was a part of a consulting firm at the time. They've now closed, but it was based in California. And I like to share this story because I think a lot of times people think they can't fight the system. And by the way, aren't we the ones who are punk rock these days? Because it was like we were proving that we were fighting the system like no one else. But I was part of this consulting firm, and they said, well, Gavin Newsom is requiring that all firms that are based in California has their employees, if you're over 100, I know you guys remember this, 100 people, you had to send in a picture of your vaccine card. And my boss reached out to me. He goes, we talked to our board. Everyone knows you won't do this. You won't take the COVID shot, but even if you did, you wouldn't show. So they said, you could just get it photoshopped. And I was like, no, I won't do that either, because that's still it's still giving them the power. It's still letting them get away with it. And they said, all right, well, we don't want to, so we're not going to enforce this rule, and we'll just let this go to the Supreme Court. So what happened was that we didn't do it. And because of that, so many different people in my company felt brave enough to say, I'm not going to either. And for me, I feel like, who knows how many lives that saved. And during COVID, I knew who Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was, just, because you kind of just know who the Kennedys are, right? But I didn't really know about him and his lifelong work of fighting corruption and suing the government with success and so forth until I started learning about how he was getting censored on social media, mainly through Meta during COVID. And then I read his book, The Real Anthony Fauci. And I thought, if this man runs for office, I want to work for him. And then he ran as a Democrat. And I thought, I had a hard time. It was like a lot to ask, to work for a Democrat, but he switched to independent. And I immediately reached out to the campaign. Within a couple of days, I was on the payroll. And this campaign has been such an incredible opportunity. And I did this still being a Trump supporter, still being a Republican. But medical freedom, I wouldn't say that I'm a single issue voter, but what I saw was that I wanted to fight alongside this man who made it his mantle to stand up for our constitutional rights, our freedom of speech, to fight censorship, to fight the corporate war machine, to stand up for our right to make these important medical decisions for ourselves and our children. And I have more stories about what I went through with COVID, but I was pregnant with my third, went through a ton of gaslighting and so forth with doctors, had to change doctors multiple times. So this campaign has meant a lot to me. And what I did is whoops, I didn't lose you guys, did I? Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay, good. But what I did on this campaign, my responsibility was I was the Midwest Regional Director, and our first big task was getting Bobby on the ballot. And I had 12 states, largest region of any regional on the campaign. And we had to go out and get signatures. And Ross, do you want me to go into that process?
Well, you know what? I do actually, but not quite yet. What I'm going to do is before I switch over to the Mayor JD, I want to just make one point, what I heard you say, which I think is so powerful, that sort of freedom element, right? That idea that we're here, the Kennedy 2024 volunteers and supporters who are on this call right now. Let me be very clear. We, the people, the Trump campaign, the EVA, all the groups that JD is going to be talking about EVA in a second, but we hear you, right? And I want to actually make one point. If you're a single issue voter, that's okay. Like, I mean, there's going to be people that say, "Oh, Trump, he kind of, this or that, and he rubs me the wrong way, but I'm going to vote for him because he's CEO and we need a leader." Whatever it is that, if whether it be inflation, whether it be immigration, whether it be focusing on the legitimacy of democracy in this presidency, whatever your issue, gun rights. I mean, I just want to point something out. Y'all should all go to my profile at Ross Blankenship and look at last night the Reddit that discourse I got, it's crazy. I blew up PA gun voters on Reddit. You got to go check it out. We got over 150 likes. We got like 200 comments in the my point is I'm a gun voter. If you see me on YouTube stream right now, you'll see all my wonderful guns in the background. I have a concealed carry. I love guns, but I think it's about protecting our families. So my point to that, Lane, is that it's okay that if anybody is on this call right now and you're a single issue voter, God bless, whatever that is for you. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit to love or want to vote for Trump. What it is, though, is to prevent the annihilation of America in terms of our freedoms, the free speech that Kennedy 2024 is about, the war in Ukraine that we have to end, focusing on America first, and third, the war on children. So I just want to make one point, which is I've always said, hey, if you stand in the middle of the road, you're going to get hit sometimes, right? So take a stance, pick an issue, whatever it might be, or pick many issues. Now, one of the goals of the next speaker, Mayor JD, who I've gotten to know so well over the last few weeks, he's the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, rock star. I love this guy. He's made early vote action, right? And so I just want to be clear here. I've been reached out to by Turning Point, by PA Chasers, by the RNC, by early vote action, as I started to get more ramped up on my profile, my support of EVA. And I want to be very clear. My love so far is just so tied into this group called early vote action. And if you're a Kennedy 2024 volunteer or supporter, and you want to make the election, help us win in November and save America, Pennsylvania is a great starting place. So Mayor JD, and we'll go back to Lane after, because I want to hear about those balloting strategies and getting signatures, because that's how we're going to register voters. But Mayor JD, I'm going to put the floor over to you. Could you tell us what gets you pumped up about working for early vote action, and why some of our listeners who are Kennedy 2024 supporters or Tulsi Gabbard supporters should consider supporting early vote action and the things you're doing?
Thank you very much, Russ. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to chat with everybody here. Lane, thank you very much as well. My condolences to you and everybody else who supported RFK Jr. on the suspension of the RFK campaign. But let me just say, too, that I want to take this moment to offer a hand and offer you our support. Russ, you just asked me, why is it that a RFK supporter or a Tulsi Gabbard supporters should support early vote action? Well, I was actually just having this conversation with my next door neighbors who have 4 Kennedy signs in their yard. I went and knocked on the door and sat on their couch to shut the breeze for an hour. And I said, hey, listen, we need you. We're part of the same family. If you look at the pieces of the platforms that overlap, specifically the things that stick out in my mind are ending forever wars and addressing the chronic illness epidemic and chronic disease epidemic that is in this country, then you see that we're actually a lot more alike than not. Republicans, fans of Robert Kennedy Jr., we agree on these things. And so I asked my neighbors, what is it that I have to do to bring you into our fold and into our family? How can we earn your support? Because I think at the end of the day, and I know this is certainly true for the MAGA movement, we don't expect Tulsi Gabbard and Kennedy supporters to come and be mouthpieces for Donald J. Trump and the MAGA movement. We asked them to come and talk about all of the great many things that they've already been talking about in support of people like RFK, but under the Trump banner, because we have those commonalities to share. So what early vote action has been doing, and what our hope is now, is recruiting volunteers, especially across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is very important to us. Everybody knows that as Pennsylvania goes, so goes the White House. So we're recruiting volunteers. And we also have some paid agents. So I just want to let you know there are a few that are with us right now You have Clooney Brown here. I see Heather J. I see Val Candy, Pamela Propson, One Vote. That's Eileen. Who else? Chase Poplawski. I'm going down the list. And forgive me if I miss you because I can only see so many. But my point is that we have a rock star team of individuals on the ground here and volunteers. Now, where does that leave RFK supporters? Well, you guys I've watched work so hard over this election cycle. At every fair and festival I was at, I saw people stumping for RFK and talking about the platform. And I made friends with them, and we had a great time at every one of these events, and we made friends. I don't want those same volunteers who are stumping hard for RFK to come and stump with us because we're stumping for America. Really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And it's not stumping for the Republican Party or even just for Donald J. Trump. We are stumping for conservative and patriotic American, purely American ideas and values. And I think that we can share those commonalities with one another. And so I'm excited at the prospect of unifying this country.
Absolutely.
Trump and Kennedy banner, where we can push the nation forward and not in the way that the Democrat Party says forward, because apparently their vision for forward is authoritarianism and putting you under their boot and making you fall in line. No, quite the opposite, actually. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to lead from the front and show we can disagree. We can also show our strength by agreeing where we can agree, and when we do disagree, we can be civil.
JD, that Mayor JD, thank you, brother. You are one thing I want to point out to this guy is he's a mayor. He's also a professor at the local university in his town, and it's Slippery Rock University, correct?
So I'm actually a faculty member at our Butler County Community
Oh,
College.
beautiful. Love it. Love it.
I still love my alma mater. I teach for BC3, which has great agreements and reciprocal agreements between SRU and BC3. So proud.
I love it. And thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. He's been Mayor JD has been. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should give him a quick follow. He's been such a great ally as I started to ramp up my support, both through donations, but also through galvanizing volunteers, as I'm trying to do today with all the Kennedy Gabbard supporters on this call. Brother, absolutely. No, thank you. I appreciate. Yeah.
Florida, I just want to say real quick, while you guys are listening to the other speakers here, I just want to give you an opportunity. Please connect with me. Shoot me a direct message if you are interested in volunteering, especially if you live and you are here on the ground in Pennsylvania with us. Please let me know. I would love to welcome you. Our team would love to welcome you with open arms, for your support, and see how we can work together to make this country better and quite frankly, to save it from itself.
Absolutely, Mayor JD, appreciate you, man, so much, and stick around because I'm gonna have a few more questions for you in just a little bit. But I did want to point out as well, so definitely you can reach out directly through Early Vote Action. So feel free to add volunteer opportunities. I also posted a Google spreadsheet. Listen, it's simple, but it's already got 7, 10, 12 people that have already fill out their information. I'm going to give that to the organizations that have reached out to me only because I want you guys to have opportunities. So thank you, Mayor JD. Appreciate you, brother. Hang tight. I've invited 2 more people that I've gotten to know vis-a-vis online. It's like we're all just a family, a big family trying to make America great again. But Heather, I'm going to have her in just a minute. I also had Chase. I hope he was able to get my request because I see all the hard work. I think he just got I think I just saw, if I'm not mistaken, Heather, you're gonna have to tell me if this is correct, but I saw a post of Chase there in Pennsylvania with Early Vote Action where he was posted up near a gas station. I think they kicked him out, and it was a public place, and just kind of a yeah. But we'll get to that, Chase. And if that story is completely ludicrous, please tell me because I get bombarded with messages each day. But we're so proud to have Heather and Chase and Marcella's there too. I mean, we just have so many great people that are just great patriots. Now, what I want to do in the next couple minutes is I want to talk to you guys about the Kennedy slash I say Gabbard because my gosh, what a wonderful American, but she wasn't running this time. So focus Kennedy 2024 and getting those the hardworking great patriots that want to go to these battlegrounds or download the Early Vote Action app or just be part of this in some way. I want Heather Heather, I hope I didn't catch you off spot. I've seen your really funny, your thumbs up here and there, but I want you to tell me, Heather, if you would, what you would like to see and how you would like just that initial touch point from the Kennedy to Trump slash early vote action to happen. Could you talk just for a couple minutes and I might jump in to keep the flow going?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for having this space. Thank you for your support for early vote action. And you get it. You're not from here. You're from a different part of the country. But yeah. So the day that Kennedy announced his support for Trump, in honor of him, I found a local farmers market and went and bought some great vegetables and not only supported the local farmers market, but just appreciated that I had that opportunity. And I'm all about uh, making America healthy again. I mean, that's important. So that issue alone for me is just super cool. And being a part of the early vote action team and working with JD and Scott Pressler and all of our other awesome agents that are here in the state, it's amazing. And we need the help, and we would appreciate you coming on board with us. And it's an incredible experience and a great adventure. And we literally are having the opportunity to change the course for our history. So,
I mean,
that's my 2 cents.
Heather, that is, I say this in some of my posts to all these patriots, the early vote action patriots who are mailing the postcards, making the phone calls, using the early vote action app. And I cannot tell you how proud I'm literally getting chills right now thinking about it. But just you are changing the course of history right now. 70 days is the difference of probably a 10, 20,000 margin in this PA election, right? I mean, the difference is going to be so minuscule. And the difference between one or two voters a day times 100 more people in the state will win the election. I'm not the only one saying it, by the way. We win the election, so goes the whatever the cliche you want to use. It's a cliche for a reason. Pennsylvania is a great starting place. If you're a Kennedy 2024 supporter, bless you. We love you. I've got so many libertarian sort of fundamental roots in my heart too. Independents, even former Democrats are just fed up with the AOC and the Ilhan Omar insanity up in Minnesota. I mean, just we're so fed up with it that if you want to make a difference, you can either, I mean, by the way, all the you go to my profile and there's a nerdy Google link that I just created. I'm going to take that, give that to Mayor JD and Scott and the whole crew, because y'all need the power. We need to get people moving in Pennsylvania. But if you're not in Pennsylvania, there are ways to get involved. Okay. And one of the best ways is to download the Early Vote Action app. Okay. And to register on that app and then put all your information in it, and that will give you the opportunity to make calls, text, as well as to find out places to go and also see some really important feeds of people. So that's a good way if you're not in Pennsylvania. And by the way, I want to hear from everybody, but we only have about 20 more minutes left, so I can't. But I will say this: if you want to go to a different state, Georgia, Arizona, Lane, I want to hear in just a minute about your experiences at the Trump rally in Glendale. I'm so jealous that you got to go. But if you're in another state and you want to help there too, we'll get you hooked up. Just go on my profile. There's a Google form in the pen tweet. Put your information there. I'll get you hooked up with I'm connected to the RNC. I'm connected to early vote action, all the whatever it is you want, we'll make it happen. Okay. I want to talk to, this is kind of a shot in the dark because Chase, you and I have just shot tweets back and forth. And I've seen you fighting so hard. But Chase, first off, was my story, I should have been better prepared for this. Was my story about you getting kicked off of somewhere true? And tell me about your experiences volunteering for early vote action.
I don't really remember anything about being kicked out of anywhere, but
That's fair enough. It was somebody. I swear it might have been in Georgia. I don't know, but go ahead.
yeah, but just out here working with early vote. Yeah, trying to help get Pennsylvania for Trump. It's been a mind-blowing experience. I was pretty new to all this when I was into the early vote action team. I was I was just a college student a few months ago, and then I didn't really have any experience in doing any of this stuff. But I reached out, they brought me on, and now this is one of the best decisions I've made. I've lived in Pennsylvania all my life, and I'm from the Northeast region here, where I do this stuff for early vote action. I Pennsylvania is my home, and I love it. And I tell you now that uh, people here who live in Northeast PA, especially in the rural communities, and when I register voters, I see it all the time. They're just fed up with what's been happening and how the course that the state has been on. And I'm glad that Scott and Early Vote Action and all the other groups that are out here trying to help make a difference in Pennsylvania are working to make that a feasible possibility to change the course of the state's on.
Chase, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, but I'll give you a minute or a second to answer it. But one of the things that's so powerful to me about seeing the early vote action and Turning Point, because I have friends that work for their organization too, especially out in Arizona. Oh my gosh, they're killing it out there. But Chase, can you tell me a story and think back over the last few weeks or months when you met a voter? And I want you to just tell me about who that voter was. What was their background? Why what made you have that really instant connection with them that made them either change their decision or make them guaranteed to go vote? Could you just kind of think about a moment and share that with us?
Yeah, so actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I was at the Hartford Fair at the Susquehanna County Republican Committee's booth registering voters there. And one guy, he came in, he'd never registered to vote his whole life. And this year he was registering to vote. And he came in and he said, I love Trump, man. He said, Trump saved my life. And I kind of gave him a weird look, and I was like, what do you mean? I said, I don't hear that often, like Trump saved my life. And he told me this story. So I forget what year, but it was back during Trump's first term. And this guy, he told me, he said, he had a very rough life. He wasn't always making the best decisions. And he got caught for selling drugs, and he was on track to be sentenced. And I think he was looking at probably like, a 10, 20-year sentence. And then Donald Trump, he said he passed, I forget what the act was, but it was an act where first time like drug offenders get, little lighter sentences. And
Yeah.
that happened right before he got sentenced. And then when he went to get sentenced, instead of, getting 20 years and spending the rest of his life in prison, he only had to spend, I think it was 2 years in prison and a little bit of a community service. And he said that was the second chance he needed. And he said after that, he got out, he cleaned up his life, he met a woman, he got married, and he has kids, and his kids and his wife were there. And he said, basically, like, if it weren't for Donald Trump, I wouldn't be here with my family today. He said, that's why I wanted to make sure I could register and vote for Trump. And that really moved me.
That's so powerful, Chase. That's what I think that draws me to early vote action and the whole grassroots organizations that Heather, Chase, Marcella, just rock stars, Ellis, I mean, wonderful people, Scott, who's just a legend. But those personal stories, right? And I think people, and we're gonna hop back over to Lane here in a second. Hopefully she's still there. But before I do that, I want to just connect with you all for just a second about something that I find to be so salient, so connecting to these wonderful people in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Nevada. I mean, you see my post, and I'm obviously targeting battlegrounds because that's the election, but the idea that these people in DC, the swamp, if you will, have any idea about what groceries cost, what it's like to send your kids to school for the first time and not know exactly what they're going to be taught, to not know if your kids are going to be sent over to internationally to a war that has no end, to not have that a person like Trump in power, or somebody like Trump who stands up for them. I mean, what we're seeing right now is the global elitist, right, who are just usurping rights, First Amendment rights, as Bobby Kennedy says, First Amendment rights, the war in Ukraine, and the war on children, right? I mean, Trump stands for those same principles. And I want you to remember that when you connect with that voter, ask them about how their day's been, right? Ask them, what it was like in the grocery store the last time they were there, shopping for 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, maybe more. And ask them, connect with them, ask them where they're from, what makes them tick. A lot of people aren't political. We're the politicos sitting on X space and YouTube live stream right now, but we're not like, I mean, there's many things that we have to connect with to make it clear that there's somebody out there that stands for their rights and stands for the same freedoms. Kennedy, Trump, Gabbard, those same freedoms that they're fighting for every day. So I want to point that out because the message is important. And if you're watching the YouTube stream, I've got my cheat sheet. I mentioned it last time, but nobody could hear me in the last stream. But I'm going to share this on my profile because it's the voter score that the DNC released. I don't even care. I'm just going to give it to you guys. So if you're on YouTube stream, you're seeing me point it out. I'm going to post it. It's pretty powerful. So this will also help you connect with messaging. Okay. So Lane, for a couple minutes, talk to me about what you guys did when you're knocking on doors, because I feel like doors win the war, right? Can you tell me about door knocking, your strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. Really top level, I think something that I wanted to make sure that I communicated tonight is that with 70 days left, we have to really focus on the most important campaign actions so that we can win this election. We're building this unity coalition. We've got Kennedy, we've got Tulsi. There's going to be a continuous rollout, as Bobby shared the other day, of exciting announcements and endorsements joining this unity party. But we have to make sure that we have boots on the ground and we're doing the right things. And as Ross mentioned, there's one thing that I will really want to harp on is that, getting involved in an organization that is going to make sure that, you're not recreating the wheel, it's organized, you're going to have good training, and early vote action is a great one. Was absolutely what I would recommend if you want to work on registering voters. And an interesting fact that I don't think a lot of people realize is that even in a non-swing state, if you targeted the right voters and went out and registered voters, you could flip a state.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
100%.
Saying that a blue state's a blue state and a red state's a red state, but in 1988, I don't know if many of you were alive then. I was. California was a solidly red state. So, things change, and registering voters is a really important action that you can take. And then Ross also briefly mentioned Turning Point and Charlie Kirk. The event that we had in Glendale on Friday with Trump and Kennedy was a Turning Point event. Turning Point, I feel, is doing a really great job of absentee ballot chase. And then we mentioned the RNC and like the Young Republican National Federation, which is a group I've been a part of for years. They really focus on that door-to-door, that targeted door-to-door canvassing, just talking to targeted voters and making phone banking calls. So those are just a really, great places to start. But if you're like, Lane, what is the most important thing that I can do to make an impact? Maybe I have 2 hours a week. I would say go out and knock doors, whether it's chasing absentee ballots with Turning Point or registering voters. And one thing that we are able to know about voters, we don't know who they vote for. We know if a state registers by party. We know if you're an independent, if you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. And we know how often you vote and if you're registered to vote. So early vote action is able to see, okay, this house has eligible voters, but no one's registered to vote. So you can target those people. And Turning Point's able to see this person in the mail.
Yep.
So that is, and then I'll leave you with one fact. So of every form of voter contact, so whether it's digital ads, mail, texting, nothing cuts through the noise like doors. So 14 targeted door knocks is what research shows equals one vote.
I love it. Love it.
That has those metrics.
Can you say that again? How many doors? Lane, how many doors was that?
14.
14. Okay, so guys,
14 door knocks.
So this is so beautiful. This is so brilliant because this is a person who has been in many, many campaigns, has seen the storms, the weather, the storms of ups and downs of campaigns and how exhausting it can be. 70 days is like in dog years, probably 20 years, right, Lane?
Yeah.
But but in all seriousness, 14 doors equals one vote. I love that. Low, there's another term that I want you guys all to know, which is called a low propensity voter, right? The person who's got the view, they like Trump, but they really need to kind of kick in the butt, not literally, but just kind of that little bit of a catalyst to say, hey, I can, you need a ride, you're my neighbor, let's drive together, let's go vote. Or more importantly, hey, I got my mail-in ballot. Did you get yours? Low propensity. Those are great. But Lane, I love what you just said there because it's such a tangible number, right? 14 doors equals one vote. That didn't come out of the blue. And I love that.
You can count that. Like you
Yeah, very measurable.
got that, right? Like I'm gonna get so you can commit, like you can commit, like you can be like, I'm gonna get 100 votes or
Love it.
50 votes before November 5th. And those low propensity voters are so important. And I would recommend when I'm training field teams, whether it's absentee chase, voter contact, to low propensity voters, when you go to the door, one piece of advice I'll give you is to get confirmation because research shows, and this is just a good sales strategy, research shows that when you get people to verbalize when they're going to do something
Mhm.
and how they're going to do it, that they just subconsciously want to make good on that commitment. So how are you going to vote? You're going to vote in person? You're going to vote in person early? You're going to do absentee? Okay.
Good call. Beautiful.
Do you think you could fill out that and put it in the mail?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to follow up with you with a text, or we're going to come back and make sure you got that done. So doing those things and getting people to commit to that. And for the Kennedy people, they've heard this metaphor before, but when you think about campaigning, I don't know how many of you guys own a business, but say you're opening an ice cream shop and you have obviously like all these different ways that you could market. So you could put a big banner out on the road, big sign, right?
Yes.
Do like recorded calls. You could do ads and do digital impressions. You could send a text message, a direct mail piece, even a piece that maybe has a coupon, right? But if you're out in the cul-de-sac getting your mail and your neighbor walks by and is like, hey, the wife and I just went to this amazing ice cream shop last night. You guys got to take the kids this weekend. I bet you're making plans to do it, even if you had those other forms of communication. And so that I think is the best way to communicate how important having a real person in your community going door to door. And there's this incredible speech, and I could link it on my Twitter, that Abraham Lincoln gave, and it was to teach people how to campaign. And he said, here's what I want you to do. Here's how you bring, he said, every Whig to the polls. And it was that have someone that lives in the community to go door to door and find out if they plan to vote and go and check on them and make sure that they've made a decision and that they've landed on the right decision, and make sure you bring every single one to the polls. And today, I mean, we have so much technology, so much has evolved, but the basics of grassroots organizing stays the same. So I just can't recommend enough getting involved and going out. If you're going to do one thing, you're going to knock doors for an hour.
Yep.
5 hours making phone calls or 10 hours tapping out text messages.
I mean, oh my gosh, Lane, that was that was so good. I don't even know where to start. One thing I'm going to ask Lane to do, along with the little cheat sheet I'm going to put on my profile for all of you guys to communicate with voters, because I know exactly what they're saying in Pennsylvania. And so this will be helpful for the on ground early vote action, Turning Point, PA Chasers, whichever group you're with, it'll help you. So check that out. But Lane, one thing that would be amazing, and I'm going to kind of pull everything together here in the last 5 minutes, but one thing that would be amazing if you would is send me like 3 or tips and post it on your profile if you would, with just, I mean, for example, like that 14 equals 1, right? Like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I didn't even, I've been in campaigns for a long time, since the early 90s, and I didn't know that. I love it. I love what you're saying about when you ask somebody like, okay, so how are you going to do it? Then they have to really think and they ground and anchor themselves, as you're saying, Lane, in the idea that they're just going to do something, right? And so don't just, one thing is just don't just knock on doors. So I've done thousands of doors myself. Don't just knock on a door, get a commitment like, okay, cool. So I, great, Trump's awesome and we need to win. And Kamal is the worst socialist commie in the world. We all know that. But how are you going to vote? And then just let them answer. And I think that it wouldn't, Lane, wouldn't you say that's, yeah, say that again?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and don't just like leave literature at the door.
Yeah, correct.
Just call that a very you're just a very expensive stamp.
Yep.
You're giving away, um, like you're kind of flushing down the toilet all of the hard work.
Yes.
So if you're gonna do it, take it all the way. Make sure you get the prize at the end of the rainbow, and that's talking to the voter. So
I mean, that beautiful. That's another great tip right there, Lane, that you just said. I love that. Don't just throw your materials at the door. They're just going to throw them away.
people think no.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they'll cover more ground.
Yep.
Okay, but truly what the research shows is that even just having two conversations is going to match, just papering a whole neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just make sure you have those conversations.
And
one tip I give people when I'm training them on doors is people remember how you make them feel. I think it's a Maya Angelou quote, but it applies to politics more than what you say. You don't have
beautiful.
to never argue with people. Hear them out. They like to hear. They like to have someone to talk to and be respectful, and then just make the ask, whatever it is. Maybe you're doing voter ID. Have you decided who you're going to vote for? What party do you affiliate to? Maybe you're trying to make sure they turn in, but whatever the ask is, make the ask, hear them, and have it be that when you walk away from your house, you're like, even if they're like a dyed-in-the-wool hair,
Yeah.
you're like, respect that person. That Trump supporter was kind and respectable and gracious, and maybe they've got a better taste in their mouth about our movement, our people, and maybe next cycle they're like,
yeah. Well, and Lane, let me make one point about that. And if you guys are on my YouTube stream, I just launched my channel about a week ago. It's really just to get grassroots on the ground in Pennsylvania and win. But I'm raising my arm here. One of the things I learned from one of the best salespeople in the world who used to go to Utah and sell alarm systems was, before you walk to the door, raise your arm up and kind of wave. Make yourself de-escalate, right? Wave, hold your arm in the air, wave to them. And you'd see me kind of waving on my stream here, but make it clear to them that you're just a person, you're a human being. One other point I want to make, Lane, is that I want you to find out their name, the person whose door you're knocking on, but make sure they know your name, because we have to humanize ourselves here, right? We actually, Americans, the 350 plus million Americans, we have more things in common than we have in different. And that's all races, color, creeds, etc. So if the person with whom you're meeting and trying to encourage them to vote and get them to commit to vote, make sure they know your name, right? They know Heather, they know Chase, they know Marcella, they know Gina, they know everybody, these beautiful people that I'm looking through the list here. If they know your name, what it does in a sort of a psychological way is it makes it harder. It doesn't necessarily make it easier to say yes. It makes it harder to say no. Okay. And in sales and in business, where I've done many different businesses, software, retail, whatever, it's getting, everyone says getting to yes is the answer, meaning like getting them to say, yes, I'll vote, or vote for Trump. Well, the reality is it's actually saying, I like Lane, I like Chase, I like Heather. It's impossible for you to say no to vote, not vote for him, or to vote for this beautiful ticket in the GOP. So sales is not always about getting people to say yes. It's about making it impossible to say no. Okay. And so how do you do that? Well, they need to know your name. They need to know where you live, that you're a local, that you're from, or you're not a local. That's even cool too. Like I came all the way from, and we'll wrap here in a couple minutes by saying, if you're out there in Georgia, if you're out there in Texas, like my brother who's stayed on the call and listened to me preach the good word about getting these Kennedy volunteers on part of the Trump team, please make a move, do something. Okay. if you want to be part of this movement, the Trump movement that's going to stop these socialist San Francisco liberal policies, I'm asking you guys to do something. I've posted, Lane, please post on your profile some tips because I know those are going to be hot tips. And they're really well done. Thank you so much. That was the best part of the whole call. It really was.
Oh, I'm so happy. My one of my favorite things to do is teach new political operatives and candidates how to, campaign and grassroots organize and so forth. And I'll echo what Ross said. I've had the chance to work on campaigns in 22 states, and if you guys are mobile and free to go somewhere and deploy out, there's so many opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities. Republican organizations affiliated with the Trump campaign that even pay for travel and housing to go work in battleground states, and I cannot recommend enough that experience if that fits your lifestyle and where you are, in terms of flexibility with work and family and so
Yes.
it's a really neat thing.
Well, it's game and Lane, it's game changing, right? I mean, I think it was Heather, it was Chase, and talking about their stories. I mean, this is changing history. Okay, we have the moment and the movement right now. Nobody cares about the DNC, what happened. I mean, it's just a bunch of clowns. What happens next is the future of America. It's the future of our kids. I've got my speech. I'm going to do it at some point because last time it was all subtitled out. But one point I make in my speech about why you should join Early Vote Action, why you should join Trump Force 47, why you should join protectthevote.com, whichever organization you want to join, go to my profile. You'll fill it out. I'll get you synced up and connected. But why you should do this is because it makes a difference, period, in a story. This isn't just another campaign ad. This isn't just another, digital ad that's served to you because they know that you love Trump. This is in person. This is on the phone. These touch points will make the difference of the election that was only 10, 20,000 votes last cycle. So I want to say a big thank you, a big thank you to you all being on this call. Your moms, your dads, your husbands, your wives, your just great Americans. And it really is a blessing. I'm here in Colorado. I'm coming out to Pennsylvania next month. I'm going to do my part. You'll see on my profile, Ross Blankenship, I'm making donations every week. You don't have to, but if you can, please do. I'm making donations to Early Vote Action. I'm making donations to Pennsylvania GOP. I'm making donations. My next big donation, by the way, is going to happen. It's going to be Bucks County. So if you're in Bucks County, get ready for that because it's one of my biggest ones I've made yet. I just know how important Bucks is, and we just flipped it. But why not? Let's just win it too, right? But please, every week I'm going to host one of these get-togethers, these kumbayas. I'm going to invite 5 or 6 more speakers and volunteers next time. I want to hear your stories. I love you guys so much. Just being part of this community of the Early Vote Action, the PA grassroots. Fill out the spreadsheet, and I'll hook you up with one of these great organizations. I want to say a big thank you to my brother who gave $1,000 not too long ago to EVA. Had never heard about it. He heard my pitch. Bless you, brother, for making that happen. Because, by the way, every $3,000 or so, they're able to hire a full-time staff member. Pretty cool. So I'm going to keep giving. A big thank you to you all. I appreciate you very much. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Blankenship, rossisright.com, newly launched newsletter, which is all just about bringing it all together, how to win. I'm going to also post on my profile the DNC's hidden tips, which if you're on YouTube right now, they're actually right there, baby. Right there. Oh, right there. So here's the score you get. So make sure you follow me. Send me a message. If you guys need advice, I'm here for you. I'm not running for office in PA. I'm not running for office, period. You can mark my words. I just want to be a successful, number one, the best father I can be, period. I'm going to be the best father of my 3 kids, 11, 9, and 4, Jackson, Lily, and Teddy, number one. Number two, I'm going to be a good steward. I'm going to make America great again through my hard work and my actions, and you guys are going to see it. I guarantee you that. And number 3 is I want to be here for this community, help you guys grow. And so we might have these calls here and there. Make sure you stay tuned. I appreciate you very much. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to be heading out of town Wednesday through Sunday. But look out for my mean tweets, quote unquote, as I blow up the Dems and the liberal operatives online and all those Russian bots. Love you guys. Have a wonderful night. And Lane Coke, you're a rock star. Make sure you follow her. Blessed. You have a wonderful night. Appreciate you all. What's up, bro? What a great group of people, man. I love these people. We're gonna win PA, baby.